Alright, we're here today to talk about the AutoProm. We've got here, I don't need to yell because the microphone's right there. So, got the AutoProm, and we want to talk about the different functionality of it. We're going to start by looking at the different connections and talk about what they are. This is a ZIF socket where you can insert a chip in order to program it. The correct orientation for inserting a chip is with a notch facing up toward the handle when it's in the programmer, and the chip pushed away from the handle. So it's in the bottom of the socket as you look at it here. And you latch it down. So that's where you insert the chip into the chip programming. We'll talk about the procedures for that later. You do not want to have a chip in here unless you're programming one or reading one. Now let's look at the back of the AutoProm. There's several connections here. You've got the emulation cable, and we'll show you that in a second, but the emulation cable plugs into here. The A to D connections, and as you look at this, the terminal closest to the USB port is the ground, and then you have channels 1, 2, and 3 over here. The USB connection, this goes to the USB cable that goes to your PC. This is a data logging cable connection. It looks like an RJ45, but it's for a data cable, and we'll talk about that in a moment also. Here are two switches. These dictate the mode of operation. The inner switch is what's called the 10K switch, and you'll hear this referred to for the ALDL data logging. When it's inboard, it's set to the 10K mode. When it's set outboard, that's set to the open mode. So normally for like the 165 computers, which are the early tune port, you need it in 10K mode to kick off communications. The other switch here is the pass-through mode switch. When it's in the inboard position, you're in AutoProm mode, so all your settings in the software and such should be set for the AutoProm. And when you want to work with a software such as Data Master or something like that, you would switch it to the outboard section there, so it would appear as a pass-through cable, not a Moates device, as it were. So for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to switch these inboard, and let's talk about the cables. Here's a retractable USB cable. The AutoProm comes with a regular cable, but this retractable one's also available. Again, it just plugs into the back of the AutoProm, the other side goes to your PC. Here's the emulation cable. One end goes to the back of the AutoProm, and the other end goes where you would normally put a chip. You'll notice on the end of this cable there is a socket pressed onto it. This is so that if you break any pins off, you can just remove that socket and replace it. But this is the emulation cable. This is the business end of the unit that goes into the socket where you would normally put a chip in your ECU. The connections to the A to D, those are screw terminals. Any wire that you'd like to hook up, you can do that. That's no problem at all. 0 to 5 volt inputs. The data cable plug. Here's the data cables. There are two types. You notice we have two different shapes. One is square, one is D-shaped. The square one is the one you'll predominantly use for all the GM OBD1 vehicles. This D-shaped one is not OBD2, even though it looks like it. It's only for 95 LT1s. So you can use the AutoProm to reflash 94 and 95 LT1s when you include this cable. We'll put that aside. We're going to talk about this cable because we're looking at early models. Again, we pull up this end of the business, which is the RJ45. We plug it right in. And we've got our switch mode set to AutoProm. And we're ready to emulate, data log, connect to our PC to the USB, and if we like, we can come over here and burn a chip. So that's pretty much the essence of the AutoProm. It's not a simple device, but it's really not that complicated either.